All right, let's bring on our last guest of the day, and I did it again with the pun. We've got Larry Klein, who's the Vice President of Enterprise Logistics at Bring, with us today. And Larry, we do a ton of stuff with Bring here at FreightWaves. You guys have been a really, really good partner to us over the last year, and we're excited to bring you on once again. Tell us a little bit about Bring and where you guys sit in the space.
Sure. We're kind of in an interesting spot in the space. We're not a broker. We're not tech for brokerages. We're really a cloud-based, unified fulfillment and delivery orchestration platform for final mile delivery, and that could be for logistics companies or it could be for retailers. So we service kind of both ends of the spectrum, and they have some similar needs, and then there's some vast differences between how those two constituencies look at the world.
And Larry, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm a little bit of a nerd at times, and economist, I love the stats. I hear there's some new stats coming out this morning.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I hear there's some new stats coming out this morning, is that right?
Yes, we have a brand new report coming out. It's the state of last mile logistics. We do this every year. We interview 200 logistics executives in both North America and Europe, and really try to understand from their perspective what their world looks like, what they're focused on, where they're going to spend money, what their customers are asking them to do. Interestingly enough, we send out another report a few months back, which is the Bring Barometer, which is for retailers. So we kind of look at both the answers to both of these reports and try to correlate them and see. A lot of this drives our product. A lot of this is really it either confirms what we think, right, or tells us, hey, maybe there's some other areas where we might want to invest in.
So with that report, the state of 2022 state of last mile logistics. Last mile is a space where people are really starting to focus in on, right? They're really starting to hone in. And you guys have been in that space for a while now. What have you guys seen change throughout doing these state of the last mile logistics in the last few years? And then what does 2022 show you that's different or that's new?
Yeah, I think the space is actually starting to mature, even though we're a 9-year-old company. So I kind of look at it like children, right? In the beginning, everything's new, everything, you just want to kind of do it, right? So your kids want to get up, they want to walk, right? Then they want to run, and I think a lot of retailers specifically just wanted to get into final mile because competitively they looked at companies like an Amazon and said, we have to do this. Mm-hmm. But now it's maturing a little bit, and people are starting to look at this as almost a new mode of transportation, right, where they're looking at things like, how do I drive efficiency? How do I retain my drivers? How do I invest in customer experience to even a greater degree? So they're looking, and a lot of companies are still in the build versus buy kind of conversation. And what we've seen is a lot of companies that built are now buying, right, because it's not a core competency for them. It's not something they want to invest in, especially for a retailer. They want to focus on merchandising and selling, not necessarily building delivery tech. So it's a maturation, I guess, is my answer to the question.
And when we're looking at priorities in 2022, what's something that kind of jumps out to you?
So the report was really interesting. So there were a couple of things that jump out to me. So one is, and it's funny, you hear some similar things from lots of your guests, lots of speakers here. So driver retention is obviously a critical factor to success for a logistics provider. But I think in our space, it's a little different. It's not the over-the-road driver retention. It's a lot of these drivers are 1099s and can work for many different types of delivery providers. And so what we heard from the respondents was the technology that they put in the driver's hands is really critical to keeping a driver working with their company. And what I mean by that is, can the driver do their job really efficiently, and can they be presented with all the information they need in a timely manner, and it's understandable, and you eliminate a lot of clicks, and you just make the driver's life better. It's a hard job, right? No one's saying it's going to be butterflies and rainbows, but it's really about trying to make that driver want to come back to work and do deliveries for your company.
I want to talk about sustainability and sustainability goals in the last mile space. There's kind of lot of fruit to be picked, I think, when you're talking about how can we make last mile more sustainable from both a planetary sustainability perspective and also a driver time sustainability perspective. Last mile, it takes a lot to get it done. It's a hard stress on the driver. It takes a lot of time. What do you think are some of the biggest sustainability needs in the last mile space right now, either from a true environmental standpoint or from a time saving standpoint?
Yeah, I think there is some low-hanging fruit. So I think without really changing your vehicle profiles, like not talking about going to EVs or scooters or anything like that, there's the concept of miles on the road, vehicles on the road, and can you make yourself more efficient and not necessarily give up customer experience, right? Like, there's two things that aren't mutually exclusive. You can give customers what they want and still be very, very efficient. But it's really about measuring those key metrics, which are how much do my drivers travel? What am I consuming in fuel? And then can I start to combine things together, still give customers what they want, but drive out vehicles on the road and miles on the road. Those are the two big ones that are actually in the control of a logistics provider, right? Mm-hmm. Because they have all the delivery windows, they know what their fleets are. It's a matter of using tech to be able to do that. The harder ones, and some of the ones we're seeing, especially driven by the retailers, are around EVs and green fleets. And a consumer's desire to pick a delivery option that is actually tied to a much more sustainable option, right? And then how do you facilitate that? It's easy to say, but if you're a retailer and you want to present that option, then you have to have logistics providers who have access to EVs, and then you have to be able to not only access them, but tender that shipment to them and then let them go out and make the delivery. So we're working on all of those things to try to give that choice to not only the retail community, but also the consumer that's placing the order and making that decision.
And Larry, can you talk to a little bit about scaling in this space and what that looks like as we continue to move forward throughout the year?
Yeah, I think what a lot of companies didn't realize was scaling is a lot more difficult than they thought. When you have a far-flung operation and it operates in different geographies with different requirements, you may have to move from a first-party fleet where you're controlling drivers and vehicles to a bunch of different third parties that you have to manage. And understanding that there's a way to do that and still give a unified customer experience across the top of all of those options is the challenge of scaling out, a nationwide delivery program. And so what we built is what we call the delivery hub. So we have pre-existing integrations with over 300 delivery providers into our platform, so our customers can use our platform to scale, right? So if they need to outsource for overflow deliveries, if they want to wind down their first-party delivery and just use third parties like an Uber, a DoorDash, a Roadie, they can do that. We're agnostic, right? We're not a broker. We're not reselling freight. So we're just here to help them facilitate that decision making based on price, based on skills, based on geographic coverage, and then do that seamlessly without needing to rely on people.
Last question before we get to the fun stuff, talking about your conference experience.
Sure.
I want to touch on the kind of importance of the cloud network when it comes to route optimization and how route optimization fits into really building out a great last mile network. That cloud technology is something that enables companies, as you mentioned, of all sizes to see this and to make it work for them and to really start from the bottom up of building an optimized system, building an optimized last mile network. How important is that cloud capability and that accessibility to all of these companies when it comes to starting their strategy with the best in mind?
Yeah, I think route optimization actually starts earlier in the chain, which is when somebody places an order, mm-hmm. right? And you want to present them with delivery options, and it could be a consumer and it could be a business, right? But we've all gotten deliveries at home. Some deliveries are. I get to pick the 30-minute window, some I get to pick a 2-hour window, some I get to pick all day. Mm-hmm. And when you factor in all of that choice, which is what everybody wants to be able to offer, you have to take all that data in. Everybody made different choices on how they want to be served and how they want to be communicated to, and then you have to optimize that. And that's really where the cloud helps, because the cloud is very scalable, yeah. right? So as customers grow and grow and grow, you're not limited to computing power. We have lots of ways to support our customers as they move further and further into final mile delivery. So I think that they all go hand in hand, right? It's the more you do it, the more you need, and the more expectations that your customer is asking for. And that's really what we're here to do, is to help not only our customers, which would be a logistics provider or a retailer, but their customers, right? Because if they can service those customers, that's where you really start to win.
I think that's a great point. And another aspect I'm interested on to hear your take on is that visibility. We hear it probably, I would say if I had a counter, I probably...
I didn't use it yet, but I'm going to now.
I think I hear it, or maybe even use it at least 50 times a day over the last couple of days here. How important is that? Because I know before I was coming here to Northwest Arkansas, I had a delivery coming for me. I'm on my phone, I'm like trying to track it. I'm like, all right, it's at the distribution center. It's okay, it's here, it's going to make it in time. Can you talk to that a little bit?
It's extremely important, and what's really interesting is we have customers who swear that it's a huge differentiator, and then we have customers who say, I want to give my customers visibility, but I want to kind of limit it a little bit, you know. So everyone's familiar with Uber, and you get to track the driver, but you don't know what the driver did before he or she came to pick you up, right? So there's a lot of configuration that goes on to visibility, but unbelievably important. And it's not only customer experience, but it's economic. Right. So if you're a logistics provider and you don't provide visibility to the end consumer, what happens? They pick up the phone and they call you. And that phone call costs anywhere from $8 to $12, right? So you're not doing it only out of the goodness of your heart. You're doing it to drive your business forward. But you're also giving a much better experience. You know, people are okay with stuff showing up late. They just want to know. Right. They just want to know where it is.
Visibility, it's what's for dinner. Well, Larry, thank you for joining us and being our last guest for FreightWaves Now here at the Future Supply Chain. Always great to have you. Take care, be safe getting home, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry.